What's up, everybody? It's your WWE RAW recap for March 8, 2021. Tonight on the show, Bobby Lashley retains the title, Shane McMahon cuts a confused promo, and Wrestlemania tickets going on sale. Let's go. That's right, I said Wrestlemania tickets going on sale. They're going to be selling tickets to WrestleMania. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Dave, your main man, here after all the wrestling. I was here after AEW last night. What a crazy night Revolution was. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, and when you do, you click that bell so you get notifications every time that we're on. We are here with you right after a very strange episode of Monday Night Raw. Still, the WWE booking nothing for Fastlane. That's what confused me the most on a really confusing episode of Raw. I mean, the Shane McMahon promo, Randy Orton with more black stuff dripping out of his mouth at the end. All sorts of strange stuff that we saw on Raw tonight. But my goodness. A lot of weird stuff going on Monday Night Raw. I want to say what's up to everybody here. Patrick C. Hamilton, Mako8033, Angelo, Lauren Cronish, Bob Cote, Jason Pete, Doug Hepburn. Big shout out to all of our members. Become a member of the channel. Go to donate.ringsidereport.net. The Shane promo was really weird. Angelo saying, I didn't understand that. Yeah, weird stuff. Weird stuff going on in the WWE. God. Not a great episode of Monday Night Raw. WrestleMania tickets going on sale, though. I think the big story, we don't know how much tickets are going to be. We don't know what the cost is. We do know they're going on sale next week. It's going to be limited seating. Next Wednesday, WrestleMania tickets will go on sale. So I guess we'll find out more in the days to come. WWE just making the announcement tonight that they are indeed going to be selling tickets to WrestleMania, which is a pretty big deal for them. As far as, getting fans back in the building, something AEW has been able to do. It's something that the WWE definitely needs to do, and now they're going to be able to do it starting at WrestleMania. We'll see how long that it lasts, right? But at least at WrestleMania, we're going to see the WWE have fans back in the building, and maybe going forward, the WWE will have fans back in the building. I think it's good for the WWE. It makes a lot of sense. They're going to be in a huge building. So it's next Tuesday? They said a week from tomorrow? Yeah, a week from tomorrow. So tomorrow will be Tuesday, right? I think I said Wednesday. A week from tomorrow. So next Tuesday, WrestleMania tickets are going to be on sale. I wonder how many people are going to be traveling from around the world to go to WrestleMania. Or it'll be just local people in Florida at the Raymond James football stadium. I expect the WWE to stick around in that stadium if they can have fans. I think they probably stick around and do the Raw and maybe the SmackDown after WrestleMania, at least in that stadium, if not sticking around there for a little while. So I think good news right off the bat, just for the world and for the WWE, that they are getting fans back in the building. We're going to hear real reactions from the WWE instead of the Thunderdome crowd, which has been, not great. Bobby Lashley interviewed backstage, talking about being the Almighty, winning the WWE title after 16 years in the company. He starts off the show after a long recap package of what happened last week and Lashley winning the title. Bobby says he's going to walk into WrestleMania as the champion. Okay? Big statement, right? He says he's walking into Mania as the champion. Miz and John Morrison are in the ring. They cut a promo before the match. Miz blames Shane McMahon for making him defend the title last week when he felt sick. He says he defended the title then and was forced to defend it again after defending it I mean, kind of losing by countout when he just ran away. Miz says he was attacked after the match, and Bobby's not going to face any kind of consequences from WWE management, kind of claiming that the WWE working against him, even though they're giving him the rematch here tonight. Bobby wins the rematch. Not a great match. Not great. But it's Bobby and The Miz. What do you expect? I would say, not much, right? But I would say it didn't even meet expectations. It's Bobby's first match as WWE champion. I was not impressed with this thing at all. About 8-9 minutes. Not a great match. Bobby retains the WWE championship, makes Miz tap out to the Hurt Lock submission. Not great. Bobby, as WWE champion, going into WrestleMania, I'm seeing on the chat, they're saying about 25,000 in the stadium. I don't know what the stadium's capacity is. You got to figure for wrestling about 70,000, 80,000. So it's not going to look full, but it depends where you seat that 25,000 and how distance they have to be. If they just seat like the lower area, it could look pretty full, right? Depends how they have to seat the people. We'll see. We'll see where we're at. I mean, the world is constantly changing day in and day out, right, as far as this COVID thing and the pandemic. So who knows, April 10th and 11th, where we'll be as far as, safety and all that. But WWE feels that they can have fans in a building. I think it makes sense. AEW's doing it in Florida, an outdoor venue. I'm surprised that WWE hasn't tried to go to an outdoor venue sooner. Right? Like, they've seen AEW do it. Why hasn't the WWE found like a minor league baseball stadium in Florida somewhere where they could just park and take over and then have fans there? I'm not really sure why the WWE hasn't decided. I mean, I guess for weather purposes, AEW really have a perfect place. It's kind of indoors and outdoors. But I'm surprised WWE hasn't found a solution earlier. Booking a football stadium makes a lot of sense to me. Right? Booking a football stadium where you can seat a lot of people in an outdoor space. Because it's so big, you could still sell a good amount of tickets. I think it's good move for the WWE. And I think that after WrestleMania, they'll stay in that type of venue. It only makes sense. And as time goes on, like if you can book it with 25,000, why not stay in a venue like that, a big football stadium, and as time goes on, 25,000 and then 40,000 and then 50,000 and then soon enough you can sell out the place and everything's normal again. So I think an outdoor venue is the way to go. You see AEW, you hear the crowd, the real reactions. That's how wrestling's supposed to be, right? And this far into it, we're like a year into the pandemic and the WWE having no fans. You kind of want to hear something different. The Shane O'Mac chants when Shane comes out, like that's not great. You don't want to see that. So Bobby beats The Miz. Next, we have Drew McIntyre being interviewed backstage. He's talking about Bobby Lashley defending the title against The Miz and not being impressed by that. He wants a shot at the title. Of course, Drew was long-reigning champion. Makes sense to take on Bobby at some point, right? You figure they're going to book that match. But still, the most baffling thing that we saw from Monday Night Raw is that they booked no matches for Fastlane. That's what surprised me the most. Is that they booked nothing for Fastlane. Fastlane is 2 weeks away. They said it, right? Fastlane is on the 21st. They have one more show to book Raw matches for Fastlane, which is the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. They booked nothing tonight. And nothing is clear. Like, I don't know what they're doing for Fastlane. Who does Bobby Lashley face at Fastlane for the title? Is it Drew? Is it Drew and Sheamus in some sort of combo match? Because Drew wrestled Sheamus, and it wasn't a clear conclusive finish, right? So Drew wants his match. Sheamus shows up. He attacks Drew McIntyre during the promo. Sheamus walks off. Drew gets up and throws a bucket. He's all mad at Sheamus. Then he goes to see Adam Pearce, and he wants a no DQ match with Sheamus tonight. And Adam Pearce accepts, so they're going to have a no DQ match. And we could skip to that because it ended in a no contest. Long match, about 18 minutes. Very good match. Maybe match of the night. AJ and Randy had a solid match at the end there, the main event, but I thought that Drew and Sheamus probably topped them. Hard-hitting match, little under 20 minutes, solid stuff. The problem was the finish. The AJ and Randy finish was really bad. This finish was bad too, not as bad though, right? We'll get to the AJ Randy finish. That was terrible. But Sheamus and Drew ends in no contest when neither man can get to his feet, so they both have the ring steps held on their shoulders, and their face is like in the steps, and they charge at each other like two rhinos, and they knock each other out. I mean, Drew, on the first angle of it, it looked terrible because you see Drew just running into Sheamus, and it doesn't look like his head hit into anything. And then he just jumps over the barricade. It looked awful. And then they did a replay from Sheamus' angle, and Sheamus sold it a little better. Sheamus really looked like he clunked his head into the stairs, and then he fell down, took a bump. He sold it way better than Drew did, but they had it behind Drew on the first take, so it looked bad. And that was the finish. They just couldn't get up. They were both unconscious from the stair shot to the head. Not great. And inconclusive between Sheamus and Drew. So what do? Have a rematch next week on Raw? Winner gets Bobby at Fastlane for the title? Makes sense to me. What else do you do? I think that's where we're headed. And then Drew can win and face Bobby at Fastlane for the title. Again, like I was saying last week, I don't think you need to do Bobby and Drew at WrestleMania. I don't know if that's a WrestleMania match. Maybe they do. Maybe they hold out and that's all they have. Maybe that's the best they got. But to me, that's not a huge match. And I would do Drew and Bobby right now at Fastlane. Get it over with. Have Bobby go over and hopefully bring in Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania. But that might not happen, so we might just see more inconclusive finishes from Sheamus and Drew leading into a triple threat at Fastlane that Bobby could win, and then Drew could find his way to getting a one-on-one title shot against Bobby at Mania. That's also a possible scenario. It's unclear right now where the WWE's going for Mania with the WWE title. One thing does seem pretty rock solid is that Bobby's going to be the champion walking into Mania. I'm not sure who his opponent's going to be, but Bobby looking so dominant. He had a new entrance tonight, looking really strong. He says he's going to walk into Mania as champion. I believe him. Angelo says, love the match, just no conclusive finish. I agree with you 100%. Great match, just the finish left you not really liking it, not really happy, right? Craig Paquette says, what a bad Raw. I agree with you as well, Craig. 100%. We move on to Monday Night Raw. R-Truth is backstage with Braun Strowman. Truth says Bugs Bunny stole his 24/7 title, and Bugs Bunny is part of the Monstars. I mean, you really have to be following a lot of these different pop culture references to understand what the hell Truth is talking about. You have to know what Space Jam is. You have to realize that Truth is talking about Bad Bunny, not Bugs Bunny. The Monstars were the basketball team that Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny beat in Space Jam. So now Truth is trying to find his own Monstars, and he tells Braun Strowman that he's the Monstar among men. And Truth is apologizing to Braun Strowman about all the things. I don't know. All the things that he's done to him in the past. I don't really understand what that means. I don't know what was going on there with R-Truth. And then he did like a Men in Black thing. Braun's like, I don't want an apology from you. I'm going to the ring for an apology from Shane McMahon. And Truth does like a thing with a pen. And he puts black glasses on. And he's like, oh, well, I wasn't here. Or you didn't see anything. And he clicks a pen. And which is what they did in the movie Men in Black to make people forget about seeing aliens. But like, how long ago was that movie? Are people really familiar with all these little references that they're making in these dumb little Truth promos? I mean, I got it, I guess. I didn't like it. I got it, and I didn't like it. I'm sure there are people out there that didn't get it and also didn't like it. And there might be people out there that didn't get it and liked it. Who knows? Who knows what audience they're playing to? It's not to us, right? I don't know what's going on here. It's not good. Let's get to Braun Strowman in the ring. Braun wonders why Shane McMahon made Adam Pearce his tag team partner last week when they had a tag title opportunity, and why Shane McMahon stopped him from being in the Elimination Chamber. Braun wonders why Shane is messing with him so much. Braun says he could snap Shane's neck like a twig, but he doesn't want to be fired from the WWE, so he's not going to do that. Instead, he's going to demand an apology from Shane McMahon for, I don't know. I mean, at first, Braun was really mad about not being in the Elimination Chamber, and then Braun he started yelling at Shane, so Shane, messed with him a little bit and made Adam Pearce his tag team partner. Like, didn't Braun start this whole thing by, yelling at Shane McMahon and demanding justice from Shane? Because Braun really had no leg to stand on for being in the Elimination Chamber, because it was the stipulation of that chamber was it was all former WWE champions, and he was never a WWE champion, so I didn't really understand why he was so mad that he wasn't put in that chamber match. So he started the whole thing with Shane, and now he's crying conspiracy against him. Which, how many guys in WWE are crying conspiracy against him at this point? Sami Zayn, Braun Strowman, The Miz. It's really weird. So Braun wants an apology from Shane. Shane comes out, does his whole entrance, walks in the ring, and says, I apologize, and then he leaves. And then Shane stops on the stage and starts to say something, but then he doesn't. And they really should have left it at that. But they didn't. Braun wants him to say what he has to say, but Shane doesn't say anything and walks away, and then Braun just stands there mad. Terrible. Big waste of time. Shane is interviewed backstage. He's asked if he'd like to elaborate on what he had to say to Braun. He says he doesn't want to elaborate, and he walks away. And this doesn't end, by the way. It's going to get much worse here with the Shane McMahon stuff. So he's backstage with Adam Pearce later on in the show. Pearce wants to know what Shane wanted to say to Braun. Everybody wants to know, what did Shane want to say to Braun? What's the big mystery? Why does Shane hate Braun Strowman so much? What did Braun do to Shane? What is the injustice? What does Shane have to say to Braun? And Shane says, you know what, Adam Pearce, there is something I'd like to say to Braun, and I'm going to tell him right now in the ring. Go get Braun Strowman, and you tell him to meet me in the ring. So Shane comes in the ring now for a promo, wasting so much TV time with these Shane Braun promos. This is the second promo. This is at 10 o'clock to start the 10 o'clock hour. The first Braun promo was at like 8:45, right? To finish the first hour. This is now starting the third hour of this goddamn marathon of a nonsense show. Terrible. So Shane's in the ring. There's another fake Shane O'Mac chant, right, from the Thunderdome. Braun Strowman comes out, comes to the ring, and Shane acts like he's got a problem with his microphone, even though you could hear him the whole time. There's no problem with the microphone. He leaves the ring, grabs another microphone, and starts walking away onto the stage. And Shane is, like, lost, and he's like, Braun, you need to relax. You need to calm down, Braun. And he's, like, panting, breathing heavy, sweating, red. I don't know what was happening with Shane, but it looked like he was having some sort of medical episode. He was out of breath, kept telling Braun to relax. He says, one thing we have to get done. Braun, I don't know if I could talk to you about this. And then he keeps rambling on, and he's pacing around the stage and the ramp aimlessly, and he really looked completely lost. It didn't look like he knew what he was getting at, what he was supposed to say. It was really bad. He says he doesn't want to make Braun feel stupid, and this is where you kind of got to the meat of the matter, but it took a whole long time to get there. And he says, I wouldn't say that you're stupid, but other people say, maybe you're a big man with a little brain, and people might call you a stupid head or all sorts of dumb shit Shane was saying. And then he says, Braun, he stutters Braun's name, which then enrages Braun. Braun chases after him. Shane runs backstage, seemingly into a waiting SUV, and drives away. Braun chases after him into the parking lot, sees the SUV drive away, thinks it's Shane. He walks away, and then Shane pokes out, and he's like, oh, so stupid. So, I don't really understand what the storyline is. Shane likes messing with Braun. He says, Shane at one point in a promo, he says, I like to have fun, Braun. I like to have fun at other people's expense. Maybe you don't like that, but so Shane is a bully, and he's picking on Braun because he thinks he's stupid. And Braun's mad, and he doesn't know why Shane is picking on him. Braun is being bullied by Shane because Braun is stupid. Is that what I'm like? What the hell was that? That was one of the worst promos I've ever seen. Like, that Shane McMahon promo might have been Shane's worst promo ever. I don't know what was going on with Shane tonight. What's with all the heavy breathing? Why is he so sweaty? What is the story? What's the angle between Braun and Shane? Are they're gonna have a WrestleMania match over this? Over Shane thinking Braun is stupid? I think they're both stupid. I think this whole company's stupid. What the fuck is this? I think they're going to wrestle at Mania over, I don't know, maybe Braun had a stutter and Shane knows about it and he's making fun of him about it. And that's, enraging the monster. Who thought this was a good idea? Who's coming up in an office saying, you know what, we need to do Braun versus Shane. Let's have Shane be like a bully who calls Braun stupid. And then Braun gets mad and they wrestle at Mania about it. Huh? I don't understand that shit. I don't want to watch that shit. Terrible. It's not a match I want to see. Nobody's asking for Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. I don't know how many people are really asking for Shane McMahon at this point. I know they got 2 nights of WrestleMania and they got to fill it. But that's really what half this show is, right? Filler. But they filled a lot of this show with a whole lot of Shane McMahon filler. A lot of nonsense. Shane McMahon. The 50-year-old son of the owner. Taking up a whole lot of TV, mumbling through promos. Looking sweaty and confused. What's going on with Shane McMahon? Is he okay? Seriously, is he okay? That did not look like a man who's okay. Right? Shane seemed fucked up. People were tweeting me, is Shane drunk? I was like, I don't know. Shane having a heart attack? What's going on here? Is he pilled up? Is he coked up? What the hell was going on with Shane? Like, what was happening there? Did that seem like a normal human being doing a promo to you tonight? It didn't to me. It seemed like Shane was like off. Something was happening with Shane. Either the promo was a mess or he got lost, but all that heavy breathing and the red face and the sweatiness, you know? Why was he sweating so much? Was it the entrance that got him sweaty and out of breath and lost in his promo? Was it just the entrance? Is he just out of shape? I can't figure out what was going on with Shane tonight. He's not usually that bad. I mean, he's not great all the time, but he's not usually that bad. He could usually get through the point. I'm still not sure what the point of that promo was. Shane thinks Braun is stupid? And he's picking on him? Is that the point of this promo? Is that what we're doing here? Like, I don't know. I still don't know. They had 2 segments to do this. 2 segments, a backstage promo. And they didn't get anything accomplished. That's really the end game of this Raw show. They got nothing accomplished. The Shane Braun Strowman thing is more confused now than it was before. The Fastlane show has 0 matches booked for Raw. You're trying to build a pay-per-view. You're going to book everything on the go-home show for Raw? What's the story here? They're booking 2 title matches for Raw next week. What are you going to do? Just have non-finishes and book a rematch at the Fastlane? It's pretty shitty. What are they doing? Getting nothing accomplished. 3 hours of Raw, and I'm sitting here trying to come up with, oh, well, this is a news bit that came out of Raw. This is something. I want to talk about some news that has advanced the story, advanced the WWE product, advanced, our road to WrestleMania, and jack shit happened tonight. It's a 3-hour Raw show, and I saw nothing really accomplished. Randy had more black shit come out of his mouth. Bobby beat Miz again. And Shane was confused as all fuck. Nothing was accomplished on this show tonight. I thought they'd book at least a match for Fastlane. Raw Women's Champion wasn't there. Nia and Shayna, I guess they defended their titles. That's something, I guess. But they really got nothing accomplished. They didn't advance anything. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, non-finish. They didn't advance anything there. They went backwards. Because a couple weeks ago, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus had a match on Raw that Drew won. That was great. For some reason, now 2 weeks later, we're going back and we're doing it all over again. Why? I just saw Drew beat Sheamus 2 weeks ago. Do I need to see them wrestle again now? I tell you, you can say a lot of things about AEW's booking, but they don't usually do that shit. Somebody wins clean on TV. Those two guys don't wrestle for a while. Right? It's one thing. I mean, they can't get their pyro right, but WWE had some pyro issues tonight too. It's not just AEW. But not as bad. Not as anywhere near as bad as what happened last night. Holy shit. I'm still in shock at what happened last night. That was crazy. You can watch our reactions to that on the channel, by the way. Our watch-along post-show of the AEW Revolution show. You can watch that on the channel. See our reactions to Eddie Kingston not blowing up. But I do think he's dead. Rest in peace, Eddie Kingston. We loved you and we will miss you. And your front-tied bandanas. And you're dressing like you're in 2002. So, Shane and Braun did their thing. Raw has a new backstage announcer, Kevin Patrick. I think he's Irish. Sounded like he had an Irish accent. Seemed all right. He interviewed AJ Styles and Omos backstage. AJ was making fun of Randy Orton for some reason, saying Randy's being taken in by voodoo magic and all the nonsense. And Randy shows up and he asks AJ if he thinks there's something funny about a grown man's mind being messed with. And AJ says, no, I don't think it's funny. I think it's weak. And I said, yeah, I don't think it's funny either. I think it's pretty weak myself, AJ. Randy wants to have a match with AJ, show him how funny it is in the ring. And AJ says, Randy, you've already got problems, and you don't want bigger problems, kind of pointing at Omos, who's gigantic. And then AJ accepts the match. So that's the main event for tonight, which was a pretty good match. We'll get to that. One of the highlights of Raw tonight was the New Day's new gear, their Mortal Kombat gear. I thought that was pretty cool. Kofi dressed as Scorpion. Xavier dressed as Sub-Zero. I thought that was kind of cool gear. I like that. New Day is always a highlight. I love those guys. So they've gone through Retribution now, and I guess they're back at the Hurt Business because Raw has no tag team title division. There's no tag team division really to speak of, right? Who are the tag teams on Raw? Retribution, I guess. Are they even a tag team anymore? Or a group? Or whatever? New Day, Shelton, and Cedric. Those are the teams. So, New Day lost it to Shelton and Cedric, embarked on this several-week program with Retribution. They seem to have broken up Retribution, completely destroyed them, and now they're back feuding with Shelton and Cedric for the tag titles. Woods beat Shelton tonight with a small package when Shelton just got distracted by Kofi talking to him outside the ring. That's all it was. 4-minute match. Shelton just looking at Kofi, got distracted, got rolled up with a small package. I mean, it was what it was. It was all right. New Day's great. Matt Riddle was backstage in Gorilla doing an interview. Riddle was talking about Retribution, but he said he wasn't really concerned with them, even though he had a match with Slapjack coming up. He said he was more concerned with where to park his scooter. New Day showed up backstage after their match, and they talked to Riddle about playing video games to get together later. Riddle wants to invite Reginald to play video games with him. Woods did not seem down to hang out with Reginald. But apparently Riddle and Reginald are friends. Reginald, who was on Raw tonight. Riddle asks New Day to watch his scooter. New Day seems very excited about watching the scooter. Kofi even told the scooter to come over here, like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. Get it? I got it. Okay? And I liked it. See? Sometimes I get it, and I don't like it, because the way it's done is no good. But sometimes I get it, and I like it. Okay? Because Kofi and Woods can do no wrong, as far as I'm concerned. I think that they're fantastic. And then Riddle beat Slapjack in about a 5-minute match. It was okay. Slapjack jumped off the top rope, got hit with a nice powerbomb and a knee. That powerbomb, Slapjack jumping off the top rope, well, boom! That was a good one. And then Riddle tried to pin. The problem is, so nice little sequence, right? Nice powerbomb off the top, big knee. And then he goes to pin him, but Slapjack's arm is under the ropes. They were too close to the ropes, so the ref didn't count. So Riddle had to drag him closer to the middle of the ring, and then the ref counted for a 2 count. It's kind of bad. Kind of a bad spot in the match. You know, it's obviously a botch there. Riddle beats Slapjack. The match was okay. Mustafa Ali was ringside for the match, and he yelled at Slapjack, berating him after the match, saying he's an embarrassment and so on. What else happened on Raw tonight? Nia and Shayna. So Nia, I like this too. Nia cuts a pre-match promo. Shayna comes out, right? Stands on the stage. They have a match coming up. Nia comes out with Reginald. And Nia cuts a promo saying, you know, Reginald is my friend, and I think he's kind of cute. And Shayna is like behind them just going like, ugh, I hate this guy, like doesn't know why he's around. And she's really frustrated with Reginald, doesn't like this guy at all. And I like it because now, you know, Shayna and Nia seem to finally get along. This is their second run as tag team champions. They started off not liking each other, but now it seems like they have some sort of chemistry as a tag team. They want to be together as a team. And then Reginald comes around, and now Shayna can beef with Reginald and beat him up a little bit. I thought Shayna played that off really well because it shows another element to Shayna's character. It's like a comedic side to Shayna, which we haven't seen, and I think she can do it. She did it really well. I mean, she didn't have to say anything, but I like that bit there. You know, it wasn't much, but it shows that Shayna has another element to her than just being scary, mean Shayna. She could kind of play off somebody who's kind of funny and add to the comedy there. A little bit like Kurt Angle. A little Angle-esque there is all I'm saying. Shayna's a badass. And badasses who don't take themselves too seriously can be very, very funny in pro wrestling. Like legit badasses. Kind of like Riddle. Although he takes himself like not seriously. He needs to take himself a little bit more seriously, I think, to be funnier. You know? Like it's too laid back. It's too jokey. He's just a joke. He needs to be like more serious. He needs to be more of a threat. Like, he fought in the UFC. He's beat some guys. He could fight for real. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a tough guy. There's a picture out there of Matt Riddle on a podium. It's a high school wrestling tournament, okay? It's like the New York State wrestling tournament. Riddle's on the podium. He's on the top of the podium. John Jones is in third place. Riddle beat John Jones in wrestling. WWE, you would think that they would push that for Riddle. But no, he's like a stoner idiot. But he's also a super tough guy. Like, they should push that he's a tough guy a little bit more because he's got some legit accomplishments. John Jones is the baddest man on the planet. If you're just a pro wrestling fan and you don't know, John Jones is like the greatest UFC fighter of all time. And there's a picture out there of Riddle on a podium and Jones next to him looking sour. He came in fourth place in this one picture I'm looking at. Look at this. Look at that. There's John Jones. That's John Jones on the far right. UFC champion, greatest fighter of all time. And right there in the middle with the yellow hair, that's Riddle. That's Riddle right there. And that's John Jones. You would think that WWE would put that picture out there at some point, right? I would if I were them. Show that Riddle's a real badass. If I beat John Jones in a wrestling tournament, I would post that picture on my Twitter and Instagram every single day forever for the rest of my life. You beat John Jones. No one beats John Jones. He's undefeated in the UFC. They should treat Riddle a little bit more seriously. All right, what happened here on Raw? Riddle beats Slapjack. Riddle's going to wrestle Mustafa Ali. He'll defend his U.S. title against Mustafa Ali next week on Raw. Kofi and Xavier Woods will be challenging Shelton and Cedric for the tag team titles on Raw next week as well. So 2 title matches are official for Raw next week on the go-home show to Fastlane, which is a little bit surprising. 2 title matches before a pay-per-view when Raw, again, has currently no matches booked for Fastlane. SmackDown has Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Daniel Bryan, and Nia and Shayna versus Sasha and Bianca for the tag team titles. Raw has nothing booked. Who's Bobby Lashley wrestling? Is Riddle wrestling? Are the Raw tag titles being defended? Where's Asuka? You know, all important questions going into a pay-per-view, especially the pay-per-view right before WrestleMania, you would think. But still nothing on Fastlane. They booked 2 title matches for Raw, but like I said, they just do the rematches of Fastlane. You do Riddle and Mustafa at Fastlane, and you do New Day versus Shelton and Cedric at Fastlane. You just do it again. I think that's what they're going to do. They got nothing else. It's weak. Pretty bare show tonight. Not much happening. Nothing accomplished. Nothing really going on. Nia and Shayna, after the Reginald thing, they had a match. They beat Naomi and Lana to retain the tag team titles. Naomi did something that I liked very much. She did a dive. She was about to dive on Lana, Shayna, and Nia. She told Lana to move, so she only hit her opponents, Shayna and Nia. And so often in pro wrestling, you see people doing a dive, hitting their tag team partners, and it's just no big thing. Their tag team partners don't sell the dive for some reason, and the opponents do, even though they were all hit with the same impact. Right? We've seen that a million times. But here Naomi told Lana, get out of the way. And I wonder if that's a new rule in WWE where you're not allowed to do a dive on your partner. Because apparently the WWE has instituted a no leg slapping rule for their wrestlers now too. They're not allowed to slap their leg when they do a strike to add impact and to add sound. A lot of times a kick, a super kick, a punch, sometimes they'll slap their leg. And the WWE has told them they're not allowed to do that anymore. So I wonder if the dive thing is also a new rule. A lot of times when WWE institutes new rules for their performers, they do a few of them at a time. It's not just one. And Naomi not diving on Lana tonight was a little bit like, oh, that's unusual. Usually they would just jump on her and Lana would go down. They'd all go down. But that's been a thing that a lot of wrestling fans, a lot of old school wrestling fans, I know Jim Ross said something about it when it came to AEW, but it's not just in AEW, it's in WWE as well, where, you know, you'll see people dive on just a crowd of people, and some of the people that take the impact are on the team, are on the same team, right? And it doesn't really make sense. And it's done time and time again, but Naomi tonight told Lana, move, and then she did her dive on Nia and Shayna, which she landed. So I thought that was really good and interesting, and it's something to look for, I think, in the future. I'm going to pay a close eye to that as far as, you know, are partners going to keep diving on opponents in WWE? Because if they made that a rule, like you're not allowed to dive on your partner anymore, I think that's really good. I applaud them. I think the leg slapping thing, too, is good. Because now you have to really lay in your strikes, and you're going to have to hear the sound. And a lot of times, you know, you hear the sound, but you can see that the strike didn't come near connecting, and it just looks even faker, right? So I think it's a smart move, the leg slapping ban from WWE. I like that. And I wonder if they're doing a no more partner dive ban as well. So Nia and Shayna beat Naomi and Lana. Nia hit her chokeslam powerbomb deal. after Lana and Naomi both distracted by Reginald. So Reginald already paying off for Nia and her team. Then we had Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke backstage. They're being interviewed, and they say that they want a Raw tag team, or a Raw, not a Raw tag team title shot, a Raw singles women's title shot. They don't say against who. No one says Asuka in this segment, which I thought was strange. We haven't seen Asuka in at least a couple of weeks now. Right? No one has seen Asuka. No one knows where Asuka is. They're saying she's injured. I don't know what's going on with Asuka. But she is the Raw Women's Champion. Mandy and Dana say they want to be Raw Women's Champion. They say that, even though they may not go out in the ring and proclaim it like Charlotte Flair did, they're just as ambitious and they want to be the Raw Women's Champion. They never say anything about wrestling Asuka. Charlotte shows up and she says, okay, well, there's 5 weeks until Mania and you're going to have to show me that you really want that title shot, and I hope that your bite is worse than your bark, or at least more, impressive than your bark. Whatever. She wants basically them to have to go through her to get a title shot, which to me it's like, well, what? How come Charlotte is the gatekeeper for the title? Who named Charlotte number one contender? I guess it makes sense. She's Charlotte Flair, but I don't remember that being official. And she's kind of acting like she's the champion as well. It's like, oh, you want a title shot? Well, you got to go through me, and then if you beat me, maybe you'll get a title shot. It's very strange. And the lack of Asuka, the lack of mentioning Asuka, also weird. Will Asuka be at Fastlane? Will Asuka be at Mania? Where's Asuka? Maybe a little injury, and they're going to bring her back soon, but I don't know. She's the champ, and we haven't seen her. Is Asuka pregnant? What's going on? So that was a weird little deal, and that's all we saw of Charlotte tonight. That's all Charlotte did. Little backstage segment with Mandy and Dana Brooke. You would think you'd do more with Charlotte Flair on a Monday Night Raw when you had like 2 Shane Braun segments that went nowhere, but no. That Shane Braun stuff was the worst stuff on Raw because it took forever, it was terrible, it looked confused, and it went nowhere, and it got nothing done. Shane thinks Braun is stupid. So AJ Styles and Randy Orton wrestle in the main event. At a certain point, AJ Styles is bleeding from his mouth after a stiff clothesline. Randy set up for the RKO. Decent match. They wrestled for a while. I thought the match was pretty good. The finish, though, not that great. The match, good. They did their thing. I still like the Sheamus and Drew match a little bit better, but they were close. I thought all 4 guys wrestled really well tonight. Randy, AJ, Sheamus, Drew, they had good nights. I thought Nia and Shayna against Naomi and Lana was pretty good, too. I thought that match was okay. Like, the in-ring product tonight wasn't bad. That's the thing with Raw. When they actually let them wrestle, it's pretty good. But they don't let them wrestle. Like, Riddle and Slapjack were doing pretty good, but they had like a 4-minute match. You couldn't have given him 8 minutes. You couldn't have given him 10. You had to do 2 Shane McMahon in-ring promos. Shane really had to do his whole entrance just to come to the ring and say, I apologize, and then leave, and then come back later and cut an incoherent promo that lasted forever. That really had to happen. You couldn't have Riddle and Slapjack just wrestle a little bit more. It would make the show better. Because the in-ring stuff is good. Woods and Shelton was good, but it was about 4 minutes, and the finish was stupid. Sheamus and Drew was good. It got enough time. Like, Sheamus and Drew was long enough. It was about 18 minutes. Long enough. Finish was bad, but, it is what it is. It's Raw. You don't want to give away all your finishes. I'm not even saying have conclusive finishes in all your matches, even though it would be pretty good. Like, it would help a lot, too. But not only conclusive finishes, but give some of these matches more time and give some of these terrible promos less time. When you have a whole company and nobody can cut a promo, why are you giving everybody so much promo time? Nobody can talk in this stupid company. But you have a lot of guys that can wrestle. Let them fucking wrestle. The fuck are you doing? Like, it seems so simple. Like, I say it all the time. It's pro wrestling. It's not rocket science. It's not fucking complicated. How do you do a good wrestling show? Well, if you have good guys that are good in the ring and not so good on the mic, just have them wrestle more and talk less. Oh, no. That's not how we do things in WWE. It's fucking ridiculous. AJ and Randy, they can wrestle. They had a good wrestling match. They can wrestle each other. Randy's really good with guys that are smaller than him, you know? Randy's had great matches with Ray, Randy and Jeff Hardy, Randy and AJ. He can do his power moves. He looks like a giant. You know, Randy's good when he's not wrestling a big guy or a guy his size, because when he does that, like, a lot of his moves, they just don't seem as legit. But when he's wrestling a smaller guy like AJ, it looks good. And he looked good tonight. AJ bleeding from his mouth off a stiff clothesline. That was good and solid. So the finish came. Randy has AJ almost beat. Goes to set up the RKO. Omos pulls AJ out of the ring. And then magically at that time, almost as if AJ and Alexa Bliss are in cahoots, the purple lights hit. So just as Randy was about to hit the RKO, Omos manages to pull AJ out of the ring, and then the arena is filled with purple lights, and Alexa Bliss is on the big screen, and she's got a jack-in-a-box, and she's cranking it a little bit, and then she goes, not yet. I guess when she cranks the jack-in-a-box and the thing pops out, it'll be like The Fiend, and then that'll be The Fiend returning. Right? Ugh. So then Alexa lights a match, blows it out, and Kane's pyro goes in the ring, but only on 3 corners. It wasn't Kane's pyro, but it was basically Kane's pyro. It was 3 shots. It was shots of fire out of the ring corners, but it only went on 3 of the corners. One corner, the corner in the bottom right, it didn't go off. Kind of like AEW last night, a little bit of a pyro glitch. So that happened. Randy didn't die from it, though. Randy didn't sell it like death. I think maybe even worse, black liquid started coming out of his mouth. Pyro hits around the ring. Randy has black liquid coming out of his mouth for some reason. It's ridiculous. Like, what is this show? It's crazy. So, as the black stuff is pouring out of his mouth, pyro hits, Alexa's done her promo, pyro, black stuff out of Randy's mouth. AJ Styles is somehow on the top rope, jumps off, hits the phenomenal forearm, 1, 2, 3, and the match is over. AJ beats Randy. Not a really clean finish. He had a lot of help from magic and voodoo and sorcery. I like how AJ Styles mocks the voodoo and sorcery happening to Randy, but clearly sees it. Like, what does AJ think is happening? The WWE can't quite get a handle on how to treat the magic shit that keeps happening to Randy. Because they want to act like straight, like, oh, there's no such thing as magic. But then on the other hand, they're like, what's happening here? What is this? It's very weird. Like, they're pretending like everything's normal. Randy burned the Fiend, but sometimes you burn men alive in pro wrestling. That's fine. And there's black stuff coming out of Randy's mouth. Yeah, it's whatever. AJ's not concerned that might happen to him. Nobody's concerned that the Fiend might do that to them. He hasn't. I mean, of course, no one's burned the Fiend alive before, only Randy. But this is something Randy must be used to at this point, right? This is the, third time this has happened to Randy with the black stuff coming out of his mouth? I think this is the third time. It happened to Alexa. It didn't seem to bother her at all. The first time we saw the black liquid coming out of somebody's mouth, it was Alexa. And then it's happened to Randy like 2-3 times now. Randy should be used to it. Why doesn't he just spit it out like Triple H in the air? You know? It's really weird because Randy, sometimes he cuts these promos and he's like, I'm not afraid of this. I'm more of a demon than the Fiend. I've got darkness. I've got voices that speak to me. I'm evil too. I'm even more evil than the Fiend. And then the Fiend does evil shit to him and he's like, oh my God, I'm just a man. Please leave me alone. But then the next week, he comes back to the promo, and he's like, I'm Randy, I'm evil, I'm more evil, I got dark things, I can do magic too. And then the magic happens to him, and he's like, oh shit, not magic. The black liquid in my mouth, how did this get here? Seriously, how does it get there? Like, does it come up through his throat? He hasn't explained it. He hasn't said what it tastes like. He hasn't explained, like, does it just miraculously appear in his mouth? Does he, like, cough it up? I guess he started coughing it up, right? What are they using? Like, what's black that they could be using, I wonder? I wonder what it does taste like. Like, what is it? Is it, like, some sort of Gatorade that they've dyed black or something? You know, like, what is it? What is he drinking there? Is it good? It might be good. It might be tasty, you know? They got to make it tasty for Randy, right? Randy's not going to be drinking some nasty stuff. They can't make it too gross for him. Although the grosser they make it, the more believable he is selling the grossness of it in his mouth, right? What a stupid show Raw was tonight. I didn't like it at all. Garbage. Garbage episode of Monday Night Raw. I give it a 1 on 10. One of the worst episodes of Raw I've seen in a really long time. A really long time. We had a couple good matches. Lashley and The Miz was not good. Braun Strowman and Shane's promos were terrible. Sheamus and Drew was good, but the finish was bad. Woods and Shelton was whatever. It was like a 4-minute match. Same with Riddle and Slapjack. It was okay, but really short. Nia and Shayna against Naomi and Lana was one of the better matches on the show, but that's not saying that much. And then you had AJ and Randy that I guess was pretty good. It was all right. But the finish was so horrible that it's hard to enjoy it. There was nothing on this card, a 3-hour show, nothing on it that was actually satisfying. Not a single thing. At least last night with that AEW pay-per-view, like the Kenny and Moxley match was pretty satisfying to watch, right? Like it was fun, it was violent, there was a lot of blood, a lot of barbed wire action. It was all right, you know? They had the weird deal at the end that was not so good, but at least there was something satisfying about it. Sometimes on Raw, it's, not so bad, but this was a low point, and again, booking nothing for Fastlane. WrestleMania tickets going on sale a week from tomorrow. I wouldn't travel to go to Mania. I don't even know if I'd go to Mania if it was in my city. Like, goddamn. WrestleMania doesn't look that good. New Day versus Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander for the Raw Tag Team titles next week. I think New Day's going to take the titles back. It's about time. They should have never lost them. It's stupid to lose them. You lose them to Cedric and Shelton, and I said at the time, why? So they could fuck around with some sort of filler storyline, some sort of little program with like Retribution, and then come back and beat them for the titles. They should have never lost them. And then Riddle and Mustafa Ali next week, Riddle's going to retain. Mustafa's not winning the U.S. title. Get out of here with that. Unless he does, and he uses it as a way to break up with Retribution and they all feud with him for the U.S. title afterwards. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think Riddle's going to retain. No reason for Riddle to lose at this point. He just won the U.S. title. Where's Keith Lee? Keith Lee and Riddle need to wrestle for the U.S. title. Keith Lee was supposed to be in that triple threat, but then he disappeared. I think it was a COVID issue. He hasn't been on TV since. I saw him tweet out tonight that he wanted to be back. What did Keith Lee tweet out? He changed his name to Impatient Lee. And his pinned tweet right now on his Twitter page is, I miss you guys too. Just know that. So Keith Lee looks like he wants to return, but not able to return yet. But I'd say Keith Lee versus Matt Riddle is the match to do for Fastlane for the U.S. title. Bring Keith Lee back and have him wrestle Riddle for the title. I think that's the way to go. All right. Big shout out to everybody watching. Shout out to our members, Doug Hepburn, Angelo. Who else did I see? Patrick C. Hamilton. Shout out to all the members. Don't forget to become a member. If you're not a member already, what are you waiting for? Become a member. Craig Paquette is a member. He knows what's up. Jason Pete is a member. He knows what's up. Become a member of the channel. Become a member of the YouTube channel. You could also become a member if you're watching on Twitch or Facebook over at donate.ringsidereport.net. Donate.ringsidereport.net. You could also go get some of our cool merch, like this cup that I have right now, over at merch.ringsidereport.net. Merch.ringsidereport.net for all the merchandise. And you can check us out online and everything we do over at www.ringsidereport.net. I will be off tomorrow, a rare night off for me here on the Ringside Report Network, but I'll be back here Wednesday night right after AEW Dynamite with my main man, Johnny North. We'll recap everything AEW Dynamite here Wednesday at 10 p.m. right after the show. Then Freddie and AJ and I will be back here Thursday night at 8 p.m. for Ringside Report MMA. We'll preview Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad UFC Fight Night coming up on the weekend. And then Friday night, Johnny and I back after WWE SmackDown at 10 p.m. to recap the whole Smackin' show. Thank you to everybody for watching. Appreciate you guys. Thank you to Angelo. Who was it? Angelo says Dave was more entertaining than Raw tonight. Thank you, Angelo. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys liking the show and staying with me and doing it and becoming members and supporting the team. Appreciate you, and I'm glad you guys enjoy it. I really am. I'm happy that I can make you happy, okay? More happiness for all the good brothers around. I'll talk to you again on Wednesday night. See ya!